gentlemen. I'm Justin Phama, and I'm currently based in the land program. And I'm here with Lameez Eksteen. Lameez and I have different backgrounds in conservation. My background is that of protected area management, and Lameez has a strong social focus with a focus on environmental education and community development. Community-based natural resource management is not a new concept. In fact, it has been in practice since the early 1980s. So Lameez and I were asked to explore this concept within the context of WWF's land program. We wanted to explore the role of biodiversity conservation in improving community livelihoods. And so to bring up the conservation context aspect into context, in 2009, the Department of Environmental Affairs launched the National Protected Area Expansion Strategy, which is a 20-year strategy to expand the network of protected areas that we currently have in the country, which is a radical rethink of how we used to do conservation. Because historically, we used to create these isolated game reserves. Now the thinking now is to create natural landscapes that can function, and also to ensure that they are resilient and can withstand the changes such as the effect that we are expecting with climate change. And so the following year, in 2010, WWF established the land program to support this strategy through purchasing land for conservation and leasing it over to statutory conservation organizations, and also through supporting biodiversity stewardship, which simply is a method of engaging private landowners in improving land use practice, and also setting aside land that holds important biological biodiversity. Through our process of prioritizing areas of conservation importance, such as the Knersvlakte, Oranjevlei, and Dassenberg Coastal Catchment Initiative, which are areas that were selected through a systematic conservation planning process, and were found to be areas that are important for biological diversity, and also for the provision of important ecosystem services, such as the one in Dassenberg, where we have an important aquifer that produces fresh water for the Western Cape. We wanted to address this topic through answering two key questions, and the first one was, how do we ensure that this network of protected areas that we're creating contributes to improving community livelihoods, and also how do we promote and support the governance of protected areas by these rural communities?
Now, to bring the social aspect into context, Dassenberg and Knersvlakte has diverse communities, but at the core of the expansion footprint are communities who are beneficiaries of land reform. Oranjevlei brings a unique context because the site is adjacent to an informal settlement, and the community interfaces with the conservation space in various ways. For example, they harvest plants for medicinal use. Now, traditionally, conservation practice excluded people. The reality is that people live in and around conservation space. We can no longer ignore people. The thinking about conservation needs to change, and it started to change. For example, WWF's conservation philosophy is building a future in which people can live in harmony with nature.
And so community-based natural resource management is a broad and dynamic concept, but we believe it can also play a role as a conservation and rural development strategy, which includes aspects such as community mobilization and organization, which speaks to the important fact of having to create awareness and engaging communities on a level to ensure that they understand their role in this process and the opportunities that will be presented by this expanded natural resource base. And also, we need to build these strong institutions, because communities need to be able to drive these opportunities that are presented by these protected areas. So we have a role as the strategic leaders, but then communities on the ground need to be able to drive these changes. There is also a need for comprehensive training, and also a need also to develop enterprises that can be able to diversify livelihood options, which reduces the reliance of rural communities on livestock and agriculture, and also to ensure that communities use these resources sustainably. And we found as well through engaging with this work that some of the key principles of community-based natural resource management are applicable universally, but then we need to be able to develop models that can be adjusted to local context.
Now, in the literature, we looked at critical success factors which makes a CBNRM program successful. They are diversified livelihood options to lessen people's dependence on one natural resource, meaningful participation to have people involved throughout the process from planning to implementation, financial management, equitable sharing of the profits among all stakeholders, monitoring and evaluation of the people, the process, and the resource to establish whether the conditions are improving or deteriorating. Project sustainability to ensure that people are committed to the process and also committed to sustaining their natural resources, which will improve their livelihoods. Community ownership, community taking control of the CBNRM project. And lastly, we need an exit strategy so that when external funding ends, the community is completely independent of the CBNRM projects. Now, for CBNRM to be successful, we need innovation in thinking and implementation, but also build on these critical success factors. So with this in mind, Justin and I came up with a few recommendations on how we think CBNRM can be implemented within WWF. The first one is a multidisciplinary approach. Have CBNRM projects across WWF programs, and this is done through a working group. And then public-private partnerships working in the landscape independent of WWF, but also liaising and coordinating with WWF's working group. And then capacity development for sustainability in two critical ways. The first one, management expertise, and then technical skills, which will help develop skill for generating income. And this contributes to community ownership.
We found that we need to use some of these lessons that we've gained and the experiences that we've gained through promoting and using private stewardship with private landowners and implement it in promoting community stewardship, which is something that we're seeing in in one of our programs in the grasslands in KwaZulu-Natal. And also develop and test innovative land transactions such as land swap, which can be used in cases where the opportunity costs of converting to formal conservations are quite high. And also test out these innovative alternate management arrangements where communities can take the role of co-management authorities for some of our protected areas. And also introduce and promote the use of technology in the use of sustainable resources as well. And also lastly, we believe this conservation is not out of sync with the South African development agenda, but we need to be able to formulate these impactful strategies such as community-based natural resource management. Thank you.